Hi there, this is Keith McDougall of McDougall Mountaineering, and today I'm going to go through some of the equipment that I think is highly recommended to take on the hills for an overnight camping trip in the Scottish Cairngorms. I'm going to explain what the kit is, the reason why you should have it, and then where it should go in your day sack or your rucksack. First piece of equipment we'll talk about is the rucksack. This is a 40 litre size. It's made of a really strong and tear resistant material. It's got some really nice features to it, such as fairly comfortable shoulder straps, but it's got this really neat hip fastening system and tightening system, which I think just makes the fitting of the whole sack and the comfort on the hill just really exceptional. It's also got a hood that can be extended, but the most important thing is whenever it's packed away and closed down, it doesn't prevent you from looking up and seeing the route that you're going to take. So the first piece of equipment that's going to go into it for an overnight expedition is the sleeping bag. For myself, I use a down sleeping bag, I think it's 750 fill, and to protect it from the Scottish elements I use a fairly lightweight bivvy bag which goes on the outside of it. So the sleeping bag, I put that in another dry bag because the implications of getting this wet are pretty serious and uncomfortable. I put the Gore-Tex bivvy bag in with it. I then squeeze out as much air as possible and place that at the very bottom of the rucksack. The next piece of equipment that will go in the rucksack is a clothing or a kit that I don't think I'll need until the evening of the campsite. So the next thing that I've got is a sleeping bag liner, which just increases the warmth if required, and also a set of dry socks, and all of that is in a clear Ortlet bag, and I use the clear ones just so I know exactly what I'm looking for without having to rummage through opaque sacks. Pack that away. The next piece of equipment to go into the bag is the roll mat. For me, that's a Thermarest X-Lite. It packs down extremely small, it provides exceptional warmth, and it's really light, and it just fits into the rucksack very easily without taking up too much space. I then put in the cooking system. It comes in two parts for me, the gas canister and the jet boil system. This is extremely effective in Scottish conditions and alpine, and for me it just offers exceptional heating capability for such lightweight. You can get canisters that are of a size that will fit inside the jet boiler, but I like to carry a slightly larger gas canister for Scottish conditions, just in case the water is a lot colder and it requires just more gas to heat up. So I put that inside the bag, and again just pack that down. The next piece of equipment to go into the rucksack will be the tent itself. For me, I normally split it up. It depends how many people are in the group, but if it's just myself, it'll be in the contained bag. But as I've just come off an overnight camping experience, it's currently in three parts. The first one is the ground sheet. The second, the fly sheet. And by splitting it up, it can easily pack round whatever's existing in the pack. And finally, the poles and the pegs. I tend to keep everything in the bags that they come in, and that's just to prevent it all rattling about your sack, and it just provides one consolidated place to go to whenever you need to find this equipment. So now we're going to look at additional layers and equipment that we require to be on the hill for a sustained period of time. I carry for my additional warm layer is a lovely Primaloft jacket, and I think Primaloft works particularly well in Scottish conditions. Just if it gets wet or damp, then it still maintains its warmth, whereas down just doesn't tend to work so well. So I put the jacket into its own waterproof bag. I then put the waterproofs, or the waterproof layer, in with it. For today I'm actually wearing the jacket just as a bit of a windproof, but the trousers will go in with this. And again, a point to note is that I don't have bags for bags for bags. I just put it all in one, and that just tends to reduce the bulk and reduce the weight. I'll also put in my first aid kit, and key components of the first aid kit are elastoplast or some sort of elasticated bandage just in case there's a sprain on the hill. There's some tape in there for hot spots, and I also got Compeed, which I find is extremely good at dealing with larger sore areas which could potentially blister. I've also got aspirin, some paracetamol, some hay fever, and just some ibuprofen as well if I've had a particularly long day. Other things I like to put in with the first aid kit are some isotonic tablets, and they go in a separate bag, and that's just so that I can replace some lost salts and things at the end of the day. Other piece of equipment that go into the main compartment are my spare map. For Scotland I've used a Harvey's 1 to 40,000 as my main map, and then my secondary is a 1 to 50,000. So the spare map will be in, again, a clear outlet bag, and within this I've also got a timing card showing pacings and timings for different distances under different speeds. I find that really useful as an aid to navigation. The final thing to go into the rucksack main compartment for me are water containers. I normally carry around 1 litre capacity in the rucksack. That's not to say I use it all or carry 1 litre's worth of liquid. So I carry one that's just all the air's being compressed out of it, and the second one's normally an isotonic mix that I've made up with either tablets or that I've pre-carried onto the hill. So that's all of the equipment in the main compartment. I've got 2 pieces to this hood. There's one on the outside and one that you can only gain access to the inside with. For the inside, I've got my car keys on a strap so they don't get lost, and then I've got some camping equipment which will go in there. So toothbrush, small toothpaste, emergency head torch, my spoon, and also within a waterproof bag is a spare sort of charging lead and a power bar for my mobile phone. So if I'm out taking photos or videos during the day, then I can just charge the phone in the evening. So now I've dealt with equipment in the main container and also equipment under the hood. Now for equipment that needs to be easily accessible in case conditions change. And for Scottish conditions, again, in another dry bag, I've got a buff, and that's just to keep the wind off your face. and that's a fleeced variety, just provides a little bit more utility than the other one. I've got windstopper gloves. I've got a very lightweight smock, sort of parachute material, and that's just to keep the wind off me. Should it be fortunate enough to have conditions where I can wear a t-shirt and a windproof layer. And then finally, within this bag, a hat as well. I just squeeze the air out of it, roll it up, and that's quickly accessible. So first thing into the hood is actually my head torch. For me, it's a black diamond variety. Key point with these torches is just ensure that the lock function is on, so that whenever you get to the campsite, you've actually got a usable head torch instead of a surprise. In it goes. Then in goes the easily accessible warm kit and equipment, additional layers. I always carry a midgie net in Scotland. Fortunately today the wind is up and so they're not here. And then just any spare food that I'm not going to have either in my pockets or on my coat. And that just drops in there. As you can see, all of the equipment fits very nicely into a 40-litre container. So finally, equipment or things that I'll have on me. There'll be some food which I'll just stuff in the pockets for easy access. There'll be my map. I've got a compass which is tied to me and on a fairly long string, and that just prevents me faffing about getting in and out of pockets. I used to attach it to the map, but I've now just attached it to myself instead. I've got a cup, a plastic cup, and I really recommend that you get one of these. Really useful for at the campsite. The jet boiler tends to burn the lips off you if you've got hot liquid in there, whereas with this it just tends to cool down a little bit. The edges don't heat up as quickly, and it just allows you to drink your brew in a relaxed fashion. I then clip this to the outside of the bag, just on a shoulder strap, and that just allows me to gain access to the cup very quickly. If I'm going to cross any streams, I can just have a couple sips of water without having to stop and take the day sack off. And finally, a really essential bit of equipment that I've come to love in Scotland are walking poles. I've got a number of varieties, but this one here folds into 3, and if I'm not using it, it can be stowed away in the front pouch very easily. And when it's being used, fully extended, 3 pieces, all locked out, really useful for helping you cover steep ground both up and down. And there we have it, the kit and equipment from my personal perspective of McDougall mountaineering for an overnight expedition into the Scottish Cairngorms. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you've got any questions, just let me know.